Hi, everyone, and thanks for coming. If you want to take notes during the session today, feel free, but you will be getting a replay of the webinar later on this afternoon. So take all the notes you want. I always take notes. I find that helps me during these sessions. And there won't be any questions today. We've got quite a bit to get through, so I'm not being rude, just practical. Anyway, I'm going to go set up here and just share my screen and we'll get going. Okay. So what we're going to cover today is the all-important first step to making more sales with our website. Who is this training for? Well, if you're an entrepreneur whose website isn't generating any sales, it's definitely for you. If you're a business owner who's finally had enough of the gurus who claim they have the answer, I mean, we all know these people. They show up and one pill solves everything, and it usually never does. Underperform and overpromise. And anyone who's tired of guessing what will produce results. There's nothing more frustrating than investing time and money and effort um, and not really knowing if what you're doing is going to make a difference. So we're going to address that today. So here's what we're looking to achieve. We want to identify one of the biggest reasons why so many website owners have websites that fail to generate sales. We're also going to show you how to avoid making this critical mistake. And you're going to discover the secret to grabbing your web visitors' immediate attention. And this is critical. And shortly, you're going to understand just how critical. And you're going to learn the number one question your web visitors want you to answer for them when they arrive on your site. And it may surprise you to learn it's not what you think it is. So if you stay till the end today, I'm going to send you as a bonus my powerful testimonial formula. I know in talking to a lot of clients, one of the things they struggle with is getting meaningful testimonials. And when I say meaningful, I don't mean that, geez, Jerry's a nice guy and he showed up on time and all that stuff. I mean meaningful in the sense that these testimonials basically explain the value you deliver to the client. The clients struggle when you ask them for one because they don't know what to say other than that. And so you're going to be able to use this as a guide to make it easy for them to give you answers that you can use as powerful selling ammunition, when you're promoting yourself. So today's presentation will be in plain English, not tech jargon. I mean, so many times, and I see this all the time too on these presentations, they might as well be speaking another language because there's so many buzzwords, so much jargon, you don't really even understand. And today you're going to understand exactly the first step to take if you want your website to generate more sales. Excuse me. So a little bit about my background. Many of you are from Katie's community at nursepreneurs.com. If you look on the marketing tab there, you'll see me listed, and there'll be a lot of information there about how I help my clients and how I help nursepreneurs.com clients. It'll give you quite a bit of information there, so you might find that useful. I've been a marketing consultant and copywriter for over 20 years. Prior to that, I had a successful sales career in two pretty tough industries, telecom and advertising. I've worked on projects for the biggies like Siemens and Kimberly-Clark, Kenworth Trucks, and I've also worked for a lot of top guns like Matt McWilliams, Tony Robbins, and Grant Cardone. But I've also written a book about website marketing. And my sweet spot, though, really is working with entrepreneurs to create website marketing systems that attract their ideal target prospects and convert them into profitable customers. And notice the word system is bolded there. There's a reason for that, and we're going to learn why a little later on. So, what exactly is website marketing? Here's how I define it. It's a system that combines online marketing strategies and channels like Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, any of the others, with the principles of direct response copywriting in order to sell your products and services. Your website is at the center of all of it. And the idea is to move qualified prospects through your multi-step online selling process. And again, there's those words, system and process. Important to remember that as we move along. So let's talk a little bit more about website marketing. The good news is you don't have to be a marketing whiz to create website marketing that produces sales. Website marketing done right works. And a little later on in the presentation, you're going to see a classic example of that in action with a client I've worked with in the past. Many people ask me this question, is there a proven step-by-step formula you can follow? Yes, there is. And again, process, system, formula, it's definitely multi-step. Everything, though, depends on getting the starting point right. And now let's take a look at where you might be right now. Maybe you have a website or you're looking to get one, pull one together pretty soon. Obviously, you want your site to start earning its keep if you have one. And if you're just starting one, you want to make sure that it does the job and becomes an economical salesperson for you. You might not be exactly sure where to start, and that's a big issue for many entrepreneurs because let's face it, there's a lot of moving parts, and it's not easy. Once you start to learn those parts, obviously it becomes a lot easier, but it's not easy just to figure out from scratch, where do I start? It's all the little nuances in between that connect the different components that make all the difference. And maybe at this point you're feeling a little frustrated and a bit overwhelmed. I know I've felt that way many times in the past, but here's some more good news. Everything I'm going to cover today is designed specifically to address these issues. So imagine if you could generate consistent leads and sales from your website and finally get a chance to jump off the feast or famine roller coaster forever. I mean, that's so frustrating. Have a great month one month, and then while you're working on that piece of business, um, your marketing is kind of fades away, and you don't have the sales coming in. Well, we're going to solve that today. Imagine if you didn't have to second guess whether or not you were doing it right. I mean, there's so many different ways people would have you believe there's a new thing cropping up every day to try and that everything's changed 180 degrees. That's not the case. So you're going to learn a formula today that's going to help you get started on the track to getting your website to make more sales. And then imagine if you could eliminate website marketing frustration once and for all. That happens when we know what we're doing. And after today, you're going to know what you're doing. So you're always going to know you're starting from the right spot. You're going to take a giant step forward towards getting your website on track to making more sales. So here's the big mystery. Why is it when you look around, some marketers have websites that consistently get the attention of qualified prospects and convert them into sales? It almost seems effortless. And others limp along with a website that does virtually nothing to earn its keep. Here are some of the roadblocks that trip up many who don't get the results they want. First of all, they don't understand and apply the rules of online marketing. And these don't change by the week, by the month, sometimes by the year. But there are some fundamentals that if you don't get them right, you'll always be starting on the back foot and you will never get the results you want. So we're going to cover that today. Um, their messaging focuses on the wrong thing. Remember, I said a little earlier on, what's the message? Your messaging is very, very important. But if you're focused on the wrong thing, your message is going to fall on deaf ears, and you're not going to get the results. Um, many marketers rely on one-shot marketing, and that's not what gets the results. You really need to have a process that you follow so that it's an ongoing process. Now you're always tweaking it, but it's definitely not one shot. That rarely works. Maybe for the big marketers who have huge lists. They can maybe send out an email and make a lot of sales with one email, but for the rest of us, that is not the case. And also another roadblock is they struggle when they transport their selling message online. And what I mean by that is I have many clients, if they are nose to nose with a prospect, they're fine. They can sell, they know what they're doing and they're fine. Something happens when you take your selling story online. And one of the biggest thing that happens, of course, is when you go online, you lose a lot of advantages that you have in face-to-face selling. For example, you can't look at body language. Lots of times when you're selling to someone, you can tell if your message is getting through, and you can certainly tell when it's not. So you can make an adjustment. You won't get objections from them when your message is online. Everything you put on your website, um, has to answer the questions and the objections. Otherwise, people will just stop and click away. What do we all do when we get confused? I always say and live by a confused mind always says no. So we just take off and that's the end of it. So we have to make sure that we answer all those questions and address all those objections with our website messaging. So, first of all, big thank you. I sent out an email recently to ask about what questions were on your mind as far as it related to website marketing. And what did you want to know most about? Got lots of great questions. This was the number one question. How do I get my website to start generating more sales? And of course, we all want that. So today I'm going to lay out the all-important first step that must be in place before your website marketing efforts can consistently bring in sales. And many of your competitors get this completely wrong. And once you know what it is as we go through this and you start to look for it, you will see it everywhere. It still shocks me that web designers are not helping out people that build websites with this key bit of information you're going to learn today. So I've been through the battle. It's not like I'm talking and reading from a book here about all the problems with website marketing. When I first started out, my website wasn't doing anything to help me grow my business. I mean, I was lining the pockets of my web guy and hosting company, but not my own. And my website had become a frustrating money pit. Just every time I thought about it, I just hated thinking about it. The worst thing was I knew I could help a lot more people, but not if they didn't know about me. And my website was keeping me from letting people know about how I can help them. So I started to study marketers who seemed to have a solid website marketing strategy in place. These were my big aha moments when I was going through this process. The first thing was I was making a huge mistake in the beginning. I was trying to be like them, and many of them had been around for like 15, 20, 30 years, and they've been successful for many of those years. They started out the same way we all start out by making mistakes and learning and everything like that. But that was a huge one. And the other thing I was doing was I was trying to do everything at once. And it can seem like that. I know that even today, a lot of times it feels like you have six or seven plates spinning and just trying to prevent one or two from dropping. You can't do everything at once. You need to decide on what the core strategies are that you need, develop them, and then as you develop one, move on to the next one. So graduate from basic on up to the marketing strategies that are quite advanced. It took me a while to figure out the entire website marketing process. I really had to work at this. It took me longer than I thought it was going to. But once I discovered the first step, the step you're going to learn today, it gave me two things I really needed at the time. It gave me confidence and it gave me some momentum. And for any of you out there that are struggling, you know how important those two things are. So, there are four steps to generating consistent sales results from your website. Today, in this free training, we will be focusing on the all important first step. And when I say all important, if you don't get this right, none of the other steps will matter. You have to make sure you start in the right place. So, what this training is not about. I'm not interested in seeing you redesign your website. Yes, you're going to have to make a couple of changes in your messaging, but you're not going to have to be looking at redesigning your site and incurring all these expenses. This is all about rethinking your messaging strategy. So here's a huge issue for many entrepreneurs that are trying to make money with their website. Many entrepreneur websites are bobbing up and down in what I call the sea of beige. And what I mean is the websites all look and read pretty much the same. And you've been through this. Anytime you've checked out sites, you've seen the similarities in these sites. And so, why is that? Lots of the web designers today use the same design tools and strategies. So basically, they encourage clients to shine the spotlight on their products and services. Absolutely the wrong thing. And they can't stand the thought of using copy and messaging that can't be packed into a little box on their cookie cutter templates. Now, I'm not painting all web designers with this brush, but I've met very few web designers who know how to sell online or off. And no one, this is something I that drives me nuts. I used to hear this all the time. I hear it less these days, but no one reads long copy. Well, here's the truth. Any length of copy is too long if the right prospect isn't reading it. So as we move along here, the key point is no one comes to your website because they're looking for something to do. No one sits down and goes, "Hey, geez, Jerry's got a great looking site there. Hey, Bob, Mike, you want to go over, come over to my place on Saturday night and take a look at it?" It doesn't exactly work that way. They seek you out because they have a problem or a need they haven't found a solution for. So your job as a marketer is to earn the right to have them consider your solution. And when I say earn the right, trust me, it's a bun fight out there. You are fighting for attention. Slapping up a bunch of information about products and services, like that might have worked 25 years ago when the internet was brand new and people were just enamored with it and there weren't too many other websites around. Today, here's the reality. Last year, according to Forbes, there were over a billion sites on the internet. That is billion with a capital B and all the rest of it. Think of this one. 252,000 new sites come online every day. You must find a way to stand out. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how good your product or service is, you're just not going to be able to break through all the noise. So here's your first game changer insight. And this may be a shocker to some of you. Less than 5% of the first-time visitors to your site are what we call now buyers. Now, this is not, geez, Jerry Black made up a site here to get us to buy into his argument, or made up a stat. This is a universal stat. So if you check this up, you will find that very, very few people are ready to buy when they hit your site. So, what's a now buyer? A now buyer basically knows what he or she wants. They're just looking for a place to buy it at this point. So they've done all the tire kicking. They've checked everybody else out and all that stuff, and they still haven't found someone that they're happy with. But when they find it, they're making a purchase usually that day. Now think about that number, less than 5%. And again, that's a universal stat if you want to check it out. So here's where so many entrepreneurs completely miss out. It's the remaining 95% of web visitors who represent the biggest selling opportunity. Think about it. Those 95% came to your site for something. They didn't come for fun. They came because they had a need. And obviously, not all of them are going to end up buying from you, but a good percentage of them are interested in learning more. And as I said earlier, it's our job to catch their attention. So stats show that many of them will eventually buy. They're just not ready to buy the day they show up on your site. But that is where the gold is, and that is where so many entrepreneurs just throw it all away. They spend all kinds of time and money to get people to their site and have some SEO firm charge them an arm and a leg so they get all this traffic and then they don't know what to do with it. They SEO companies and web designers are really selling their clients short. They should be telling them this stat, but not many people hear about it. So the journey of turning any web visitor into a client or customer starts with the first step you're going to learn today. Now, before the internet, people who wanted information about a product or service essentially had three ways to get it. So they could call you up and ask, and often subject themselves, and we've all heard them, to a corny, cheesy sales pitch. They could look through one of your brochures. Some of you won't even know what that a brochure is. And they could check you out at a trade show. And that's still those things still happen today, of course, but not like now. Prospects have access to unlimited information at their fingertips. We all do. So many of your visitors have likely visited six or seven of your competitors before they even get to you. So think about that. They're all, and the good news there is they probably haven't found anyone who knows what to do when they show up. So that's a good sign. But it also shows you that you're in a battle and you've got to win their attention. So here's your second game changer insight. The vast majority of first-time visitors who land on your homepage have one question they want answered. Now, it's got nothing to do with your products or services. Indirectly, it does, but it really doesn't. That's not what they're interested in at this point. Here's the question. With all the options available to me, including doing nothing, why should I pick you to help me solve my problem or fulfill my need? Now, think about that. You are selling you and your unique solution. By the time prospects arrive on your site, they already know the thing they need. And just think of your own research habits or buying habits. I mean, we check out products and services all the time, and at the end of the day, we are intimately familiar with the problem we have. So we start checking it out. So we see all the things that will help us solve it. But now they're looking for someone to buy it from. So these buyers are very different from that 5% number of now buyers. These buyers take a lot longer than you might think to make a buying decision. Sure, some of them make a buying decision the next day, but many will be a week, maybe a month. It could be 6 months. But the fact of the matter is, you need to know it takes a lot longer um, uh, to until they're ready to buy. They're cautious, they're demanding, and they don't want to make a decision they'll regret. So they're very, very careful. And we always need to know that as we work with them and build relationships, we always need to know we're always on trial. They're always testing us and always thinking about whether or not we deserve their time and consideration. So when they land on your website, one of two things are going to happen. One's bad. It means the selling opportunity will go right off the rails immediately because your prospect clicks away within 3 seconds of arriving. The good thing is you get a chance to start building a bridge to a mutually beneficial relationship. Everything depends on the first message they see when they arrive on your site. So many marketers start with absolutely the wrong message. They begin talking about their stuff. We've got state of the art this, we've got the latest that. Lots of we, our, and us going on. A funny little exercise I do with clients is I ask them, go on your website and look on your homepage, your landing page, particularly your homepage. How many times do you see the word you, your, and how many times do you see the words we, our, and us? And they're shocked. Um, because if we're interested in marketers that are interested in us, and if all they do is talk about themselves, that's a clear signal they're not thinking about us. So here's a cold stone fact. Your prospect couldn't care less about you or your product until they know you are interested in what they want. So you might be thinking, if going on and on and on about your stuff is such a buzzkill, why do so many marketers continue to do it? Well, it's like many things. They don't know any better and nobody tells them. So what I see a lot of, and sometimes you'll see this in similarity sites of competitors, the competitors look the same because they're copying each other. Well, if you copy someone who doesn't know what they're doing, I think you can guess that you're not exactly headed down the right path. So here's how you get your prospects' attention. Use a headline, one that is focused on what your prospect wants. So it's important to know people buy emotionally first and then back up their emotional buying decision with logic. So, I mean, we see this all the time. If people didn't buy like that, we'd be all driving cheap cars and eating KD. But people want what they want, so they use their emotions, and that's what we tap into as communicators. You tap into that and think of their emotions first, and then tell them how great your product or service is, and that it meets all of their other logical, rationalizing needs for the product they buy. So here's why a headline is so powerful. It's a proven strategy newspapers have been using forever to attract their readers' attention. Your web visitors, think of this is important. Your web visitors are in scanning mode when they arrive on your site, just like us. Like you're not sitting there going, okay, I just carved out 20 minutes to look at Susan's site. You are in scanning mode, and all you care about is there anything there for you. So the headline makes it easy for them to decide if they want to stick around or click away. So your headline's job is to instantly grab the attention of your prospect. And you got about 3 to 5 seconds. Just think of your own, again, your own surfing habits. You go on a website, you almost know at the minute you land on it whether or not you're going to stick around. And 9 times out of 10, you're gone because the marketer has not done a good job of hooking you in to their copy by giving you messaging that speaks to what you need. So, one of the toughest battles today is for your prospects' attention. You use your headline to make a promise that tells your prospect what to expect from you. So, if they give you a chance, your headline is going to sort of say to them, look, give me a little bit of time to tell my story here about how I can change your life. To do that, you have to tell them that you're interested in their life, and that's what the headline does. So you make a promise. So here's how you do it. In copywriting, we use what we call the selling power, the four U's. So what are the four U's? Well, these are four characteristics every headline should have. It's tough to get all four, but if you can get three, you're away to the races. So the first thing is you want it to be unique, and I'm going to give you an example in a minute of a blah blah headline and one that employs these powerful for use. So you want it to be unique. You want it to be useful, right? Sometimes headlines are very vague, and you need to be ultra specific. So unique, useful, ultra specific. So what do I get? If I give you a few more seconds of my time and start reading your copy, what are you going to give me? How are you going to make my life different? And finally, urgent. You want the person reading the headline to think, geez, I gotta have that. That could change my life. I've got to have that. And that creates a sense of urgency that makes them forget everybody else. So the next step, you want to try and create some headlines and try and use, as I say, at least three of the four U's. Focus on your web visitors' needs and wants, and shoot for a length between 15 or 11 words. And often I will use a subheadline as well. So you've got the headline, which is bold and bigger, and then the subheadline is not bold, and it supports the headline. That's kind of a sneaky way of hitting them with a 1-2 punch. And when I say that, hitting them with compelling copy that gives them everything they need. Then you apply the so what test. Now, prospects, when they read something they've written, they don't say that, or something we've written. They don't say this, but they think it. So the so what test, what is it? Here's how it works. If your headline allows your reader to think, so what, after they read it, you need to do a better job of explaining why your prospect should care. Now, here's an example. And it makes this assumption. Your prospect is coming to your site because they're experiencing a computer virus issue, let's say. So on the left, there's the so what version, yawn, yawn, and another yawn. Our state-of-the-art XYZ software is great for removing viruses. We say this all the time. Because I work with clients who do this and suffer from this. I see it more than other people. So if we flip over to the for you version, you can see our XYZ software removes computer viruses 5 times faster at half the price. So if you are experiencing a computer virus, the one over here on the right is making a promise that you almost have to investigate. Now, clearly, you cannot overstate it, you can't mislead people, but if you can do it, it's important for you. It's not your reader's job to figure out um, how your product is going to change your life or change their life. It's your job to explain how it will. So, funny little story here. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Folgers coffee. It's been around for a long time, but back probably about 40 or 50 years ago, Folgers was just getting their behind kicked by, whoops, hold on, I just inadvertently flipped ahead here. Hold on, let me just see if I can get back to where oh, there we go. Sorry about that. So about um, so about 30, 40 years ago, Folgers was getting hammered by Maxwell House. And so they called all the marketing people into the boardroom and said, we're not leaving here till we figure out how to gain market share from Maxwell House because we just can't go on like this. So I don't know what they did, if they locked themselves in the room for a weekend or something like that. But at the end of it, they came out and they put out this can, and this is I think this is still on their product today. You see the words "mountain grown," and they put that on, and within probably just 2 or 3 months, they were able to steal quite a bit of market share from Maxwell House. Now, what nobody knew that was going up and down the aisles and buying the coffee is like 95% of coffee is mountain grown, but nobody was talking about it. And by talking about it and bringing it out and marketing that distinction, that competitive advantage, what was seemed like a competitive advantage, they were able to really move the needle on sales. And so that's very important. You are an expert on your product or your service. We're not. As buyers, we're not. It's up to you to make us understand what makes you unique. And that's what you're trying to do with all of your messaging, but particularly the first messaging that your prospect sees when they arrive on your website. So you now know the proven first step for getting your website on the road to making more sales. It's indisputable. There's just no question about that. So you've got to grab your web visitor's attention in about 3 to 5 seconds. Focus on simply using an attention getting headline approach, and you should see some improvement in your website marketing. I'm not saying like that's just one piece, it's kind of the first step, but even making that change alone is going to help you because people are going to be, instead of clicking away because you're maybe using a message that isn't very compelling, just by using this approach alone, you're going to get more people staying on your page longer and possibly going deeper into your site. So to close off this training today, I've got a powerful story, and this is one of my favorites. It demonstrates the selling power of effective website marketing, and it involves a company called TinTech 2020, who you've probably never heard of. So TinTech 2020, it's owned by a couple of entrepreneurs, Andy and Becky Babiak. And this business is in the automobile window tinting business. So the film that goes on the inside of the car, that's kind of what they do. So when Andy and Becky first started out this business, they were up all hours of the night cutting the patterns by hand. It was a very slow process, even though they didn't have the 17,000 models of cars and years and models of cars they have today. There were enough out there that took quite a bit of time, so they had to build an inventory. So they sat down one night and they created the first computerized tint film cutting system that revolutionized the industry. So they were really trailblazers. Now, with that, even though it probably happened about 20 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago now that they did this, um, you'd think this headline, which was on their website when we first met up, was would do the job. Computerized, state-of-the-art automobile window tinting system. Now, lots of people existed in the business that tinted automobile windows, and they were doing it by hand because that was the way until Andy and Becky figured out a better way. So they put this on their website. And Andy just found over time he was answering the phone and getting a bunch of calls about, people asking questions like, "Oh, are you open Saturday?" and "Do you take Visa?" and all this stuff. He was answering the phone about all the wrong questions. He was on the phone all day, and because people didn't really understand, it was almost like something that they knew they would be interested in, but he did not put it in a language. I remember we talked earlier about messaging. He did not put it in a form of messaging that instantly grabbed the attention of the people that were slaving away, and they were slaving away, cutting this film. So he called me. I didn't know him. He called me, and we worked on a number of things on his side, like an entire system. But again, the first thing was he had to change the messaging that appeared on his website. So here's what we came up with, and look at the difference. Here's him selling stuff, computerized, state-of-the-art automobile window tinting system, which people are still doing today. It may not be computerized, state-of-the-art automobile window tinting systems, but it's computer software. It's this, it's that, it's stuff. So here's what we came up with. So take a look at this headline. Faster profits, less stress, more time off. Are you tinting more and making less? Tired of feeling like you never leave the shop? See the benefits. So this is the kind of headline you want to shoot for is what difference does your product or service make in the lives of the people that just land on your site? So it won't, he's not selling stuff, he's selling a transformation. And that's incredibly important for you as a marketer that wants to get more sales from your website. Incredibly important to understand. So, did it work? Well, let's take a look. He started to get less phone calls about are you open Saturday and do you take Visa? But a high percentage of the calls he was getting were from prospects pretty much who had decided to buy the program. They just needed to understand a few more things about it. So almost every call he was getting was somebody who was going to turn into a customer. And they did. That year that we put this in, he went from 35 new dealers. So the dealers, of course, were important to him because they would buy his service or buy his system, and then they would use it with their customers. But he always knew he wanted more dealers. So that first year, we tripled it. We went from 35 to 95, all because we explained to people coming to his site that had heard about him and everything like that, all because we described what a difference in their life his system could make. And it was a difference in their life, not about his stuff or anything like that. So his annual incremental revenue increase in year one was over 100 grand. And that was a lot of money. That was about 10 years ago. That was a lot of money then for somebody that wasn't getting anything from their site. And the average dealer spends about, I'm going to say something, I think it's like about $9,000 with him. So this amount over the time they're a dealer and they either get out of the business or do something else. So over 8 years, he put an extra $806,000 on the bottom line. And so that's the difference a system made for Andy. But here's the important thing for you is his transformation started with the exact first step you learned today. Give people what they want and give them what they're interested in, and they will listen to you. So that's key. Now, so let's take a look at what we covered today. We learned a key statistic you can use to reset the direction for anything you do with your website going forward. That 5% tells you right away there's 95%. Um, the 5% you're going to be in a bun fight with other marketers, but you want to make sure for those 5% have a message that resonates with them. And you know the formula now for creating that. The other 95%, you want to build a system that will go after them. So here you also learn why your current approach to website marketing may not be delivering the results you want. So if you go and check your website, especially your homepage, you might be able to see some clues there as to why you're not creating sales with your website. We also identified the first step you need to take to put yourself in position to turn a web visitor into a sale. And as I said, without that first step, it doesn't matter how good your marketing is. If you can't get people to stop and put their coffee down and go, geez, it looks like this is something I need to spend a little bit more time with, then it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's all wasted. And so is all the money, time, and effort you spent getting them to your site. If you aren't prepared to greet them with a message uh, that compels them to stick around and learn more. And finally, we learn how to grab the attention, the immediate attention of your web visitors to your website. And that's by using that headline. So practice those headlines. Look back at Andy's headline, copy that, and see what a difference it makes. So At some point in the near future, I'm going to be doing a deeper training on how to get your website making more sales. I'll send you an email and make sure that you're on the list for that. So keep an eye out for it. And don't forget to check your email in about an hour. That should say hour, not bad, not good for a copywriter. Check your email in about an hour for my powerful testimonial system. It's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to make life easier for you and your client or customer, but it's especially going to result in giving you some powerful selling ammunition that you can use to make more sales. So I hope you enjoyed the training today. I hope you found it useful. And as I say, I'll be in touch shortly to talk about some more of this type of training in the not too distant future. Thanks again for attending.